Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. You ever wonder how laws are passed or how they're enforced, or more importantly, how laws are created? Today on the show, we have a young lady who not only has created a law, but she's going to share with us her journey on how that law was passed, how it got enforced, and more importantly, how it became created.
I'm Miriam Odegard, and this is my story.
Tell us a little bit about who you are before we get into the story.
Sure. So I live in the Indianapolis metro area, kind of live near Geist Reservoir. I have 4 children.
Right.
And so I grew up in a small farming village in Ohio and moved to the Indianapolis area in 2004.
All the way from Ohio to beautiful Indianapolis.
There you go.
Why Indianapolis? Out of all the other cities that you could have choose, you came to the Hoosier State.
Came to the Hoosier State. So I was actually living in Minneapolis with my husband at the time, and the company he was working for was purchased by a multinational corporation that's headquartered here, and they moved us here.
Your story is intriguing, to say the least. Most people, if they heard it, which they're getting ready to hear, will find it unbelievable, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. Take the viewers a little bit about how a trip to Germany, coming back, is like going into a haunted house.
So yeah, I'm happy to tell you this crazy story. So when we moved here in 2004, we were expecting our first child, and he was born, wonderful kid. So about a year later, we were expecting twins, and so that was, another big surprise. And so we had 3 babies in 2 years.
Wow.
So yeah, it was quite a lot. And in about 2009, the company that my husband was working for said, hey, we're going to move you to Germany because we want you to be part of this big project we're doing. We're going to take your whole family over there.
Mm-hmm. So you get to Germany, but you wind up having a guest in your house.
Yeah, for sure. So we had this girl that we knew, young woman, and she was our nanny on occasion. My husband traveled quite a bit for work, and so I would ask her to help out with the kids. And I'm not really from here, neither was he. So, this is kind of us with the kids, and we knew this girl, and she worked for other families that we knew, and we'd done a background check on her, and we'd known her for some time, and everything was fine. So we said, hey, we're going to be going overseas. Why don't you live in our house for a little bit, pay us a little bit of rent,
Right.
and then we'll just come back and pick up where we left off.
But it didn't pick up like that.
It did not go that way at all. So we're in Germany, and some weird things started happening. I started getting notices from my neighbors that, hey, your dog's outside barking. It's January. Why is your dog barking all the time? A debit card that I had been used without any authorization. And then I one day got this really bad feeling that something was very wrong, and I had to go home.
How long had you been in Germany prior to having these questions filtering in you about something might be wrong in your home?
It wasn't very long. It was about 10 months we were there, and something was wrong.
Did you check on your house by phone while you was in Germany to see
Sure.
if things were okay? And what did this person tell you?
So everything was fine. Every time we would call her, everything was fine. It's okay. There's no problem. I don't know why the dog's barking.
Did you have webcam, baby cam, any of that
This
stuff?
was way before that. This was way before. Now,
Okay.
hindsight's 2020,
Yeah.
but this is way before any of that.
So then what happens? Okay, you feel something ain't right, and now you got kids. How were you making the plans to come back? And more importantly, your husband's probably like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, that was exactly how that went down. He's like, what do you mean? Why do you mean you have this feeling? And I said, look, we've just got to go home. I have a bad feeling something's wrong. And he said, okay, let me see what I can do. Because it takes some time to hook up
Right.
International flight with like 3 kids and 2 adults. So he was working on that, and in the meantime, we had a family friend that was checking on the house, and he said, something's not right. I'm not getting a good feeling.
Really? When you say he was checking on your house, did he have the keys to go in your house, or he was just observing the outside presence of your house?
He would go and check in on occasion on this person, just make sure everything was okay. And he kept saying, I've got a bad feeling, I think something's wrong. And I finally said to him, I want you to go over to the house, tell her that you're going to take the dog to a grooming appointment. And I had made arrangements for the dog to be boarded, because I wanted the dog out of the situation, because she was behaving more and more strangely. It was starting to make me uncomfortable. So the first thing was to have that friend go get the dog to safety, and then we were going to come home.
When he gave you the assessment, did he physically walk in the house to get the dog? Or was the dog, did she give, I gave the person away. Did the individual give the dog to your friend?
She did, yeah. She was like, okay, yeah, here you go.
So she didn't let him in the house?
No, but when he called us back, he said, hey, I just wanted you to know your minivan was missing when I talked to her. And I was like, why would the minivan be missing if she was at our house? Should she, because she was only supposed to drive it around the block once a week, so why was the minivan gone? It was very strange.
So now you're really, the suspicions is becoming validated almost.
Yeah, really, yeah.
So you come back on U.S. soil. What takes place?
So we come back on U.S. soil, we get to the house, and during this time, she had said, hey, I don't want to pay any rent. I was supposed to be getting unemployment. They haven't paid me any money. I'm stressed out. Can I just live in your house for free? Which was also quite strange to us, because she was a single female, and there's all kinds of like restaurants near where we live, or big box stores where she could just easily get a job. So for her to not be receiving unemployment was quite strange, and to ask to live in our house for free was strange, and things just weren't adding up.
Didn't she work? Because you guys asked her for at least some money while she was staying there.
We were asking her to pay $300 a month in rent, and she suddenly said, oh, well, I don't want to pay you rent. Can I just live here for free? And we were like...
But this is after you let her, after she's already taken
Correct.
Almost possession. She
had taken full possession of our house. Correct. Yeah.
What happens now? You walk in your house, now what?
So I walk in the house, and things just felt weird. And we were there for a day or two, but there was just a weird atmosphere going on. I noticed I lost count at least 40 urine stains in our living room. And I had small kids. I had 3 toddlers, essentially, and so they couldn't even play on the living room floor because it was saturated with urine. And there were odd smells, strange things we were noticing. And
with that much urine,
it was
staying in the house. You didn't smell it when you first walked in the door?
Oh, you could smell it when you walked in the door. It was terrible. And then we started noticing things going missing. But remember, we just did a transatlantic flight with 3 kids. I mean, it takes a minute to get your bearings, right? And we drove home during this epic thunderstorm. So we get through all that, and I remember I was going to take the kids to the store to get them some little things to play with, and I reached in the change drawer, and I realized there was a lot less change than there used to be. And I turned to my husband, and I said, you need to go up right now to see if your coins are in the attic. And he went upstairs, and he's like, they're gone. And that's when I called the police. And I keep a lot of records, and I look through my records, because I don't like clutter, I don't like bills, I have a big binder. And I looked at our minivan, and I had the oil changed before we left, because I didn't want the minivan to sit with dirty oil for a year, right? And I looked at the odometer, and my jaw dropped, because there was 6,000 more miles on that minivan than when we had left. Because remember, I'm holding the sheet that says it had such and such miles on it, right? And so we call the police, we make this big report. There's this, of course, all the grass is overgrown. There's this weird body-shaped tarp in the backyard. We don't know what, it's weighted down with bricks. And so, and also during this time, remember, my husband only has a short amount of time before he has to go back to Germany. And I have 3 kids who need dental appointments and pediatric appointments, and I've got to hire an attorney. and I've got to mitigate all this damage. So it's all on me to make this happen. So I'm calling contractors, gathering evidence, and I had the police search that body-shaped tar because I didn't know what that was about. I remember the police officer comes out with this billy club, and he just, hits it, and it was leaves, but it was really weird. Our fence had been set on fire. I don't know, we had a wood fence that was set on
Did
fire.
any of your neighbors, when you get home, did they come and tell you that they saw anything the neighborhood watched?
That's an excellent question. So the across the street neighbors did say that they saw her driving our minivan and that she would wave like nothing was wrong, even though she was only supposed to drive it once a week around the block, but apparently she drove it as if it was her own car. Remember in
6,000 miles, yeah, she was driving.
Yeah, she was driving. Somebody was driving. Remember, this is back in 2009. What happened in 2009? The housing crash. So the houses on either side of me were foreclosed on, and they were completely empty. The only one keeping watch was the neighbor across the street. So, if we'd had neighbors, could they have seen? Probably, right? But it was a little bit of the perfect storm. Here's this house at the end of a cul-de-sac, a mother who's got these kids, a husband who's traveling. I'm just going to slide on in and see what I can get.
You mentioned collect evidence and so forth. So I take it after you filed your police report, you actually start pursuing legal actions.
Correct. So
did you think your chances of winning would? You're taking legal actions. You got to think you got some type of case. What were you going to take her to court for?
So I should probably tell you that at one time I was going to be a criminal defense attorney, and I went to law school.
Okay.
It was clear to me that it wasn't going to meet the standard of evidence for criminal court, because what's the standard? Beyond a reasonable doubt. Was there a reasonable doubt? Yes. However, in civil court, I only have to prove 51% of the burden of proof.
Because in criminal court, that would be considered circumstantial
It would be
evidence?
too much circumstantial evidence, correct,
Okay.
but not in civil court. Because remember, circumstantial evidence has very little bearing in civil court. So what I mean is that one of our allegations was theft, and so the standard was much lower in civil court.
Could you prove that there was theft?
Yeah, we could, and we did ultimately.
Tell me what it was like when you went into court. When you found enough, what was the procedures to get her into court, first of all?
So we met with our attorney, and I spent that year gathering evidence as much as I could.
That year?
Correct, because we were overseas. We had to go back overseas. I had to take these 3 children and go back overseas. Oh, and by the way, in all of this, I found out that I was expecting baby number 4. So there was a lot of work on me, a lot of pressure on me.
So when you went back overseas and you're pregnant, please tell me you didn't allow another person in your house?
I did not. No, I did not.
Okay,
We did not. I
okay.
learned my lesson by then.
Okay,
we
so
did not.
so now what are you doing? You're back overseas and now you're trying to formulate a case.
Sure, yeah. So I'm very mild-mannered, but if there's a threat to my family, particularly something that disturbs the home I've worked so hard to create, I don't really take real kindly to that. And so with my legal background, I was able just to start gathering evidence. Pictures, interviewing neighbors. We found out that this person had actually moved someone else in. I found an application that she had submitted to someone who she'd given our address as where she lived. And one of the things that was missing was a chainsaw. And it just so happened I had the serial number of that chainsaw, and the police were able to recover it because it had been pawned.
Well, man, that's a good piece of evidence because all you got to do is go in there and pull the video camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what happened.
So you get her into court. What was her reaction? Did she show up? How was she serve papers? Where the heck was she living when she left your house?
So I don't know where she was living. She told us that before we came home, she said, "Hey, I can't pay you any rent, And I said, well, we'll just go ahead and release you from the lease then. Where she went, I don't know. But she had given her permanent residence as her parents' house. And so our attorney asked the sheriff to serve her at her
I was
parents'
just getting
house.
ready to ask, how did she even get served?
I believe the sheriff in the county where she lived served her parents.
So you get into the courtroom, you get your day in the legal system.
Mm-hmm.
Are you confident?
I was pretty nervous, to be honest. I was pretty nervous.
What was it like?
It was intimidating at first. I mean, keep in mind I've got 50 exhibits, and this person had tried at one point to sue me for slander.
How's she gonna sue you? During the same court procedure, they brought both cases together, the slander and
She
the
alleged,
theft?
yeah, she countersued for slander at one time. She ended up dropping it before the case, but she was saying that I shouldn't have. She was behaving so strangely. It wasn't like the person that I knew. It seemed like she was in some kind of mental health crisis or something like that.
Right.
Like someone who's in my opinion, someone who would be bipolar or someone having some kind of crisis. So I had called her parents and said, I'm concerned about this person. Well, apparently that amounted to slander in their eyes, and they asked the court to punish me.
So people don't think that you was an all-out ass. You did try to work with her.
I did. I didn't
stuff.
immediately
Yeah,
jump
that's gonna say.
I didn't immediately lawyer up. I was like, this person's behaving strangely. What's going on? And I was met with some pretty unfriendly conversation, and yeah.
So you're now in court. You get your day. You got 50 pieces of exhibits in front of you. What happens?
So we're in court, and I remember her attorney was just screaming at me, trying to get me to crack on the stand. I don't know what he thought.
What were you going to crack on?
Yeah, I don't know what I was going to. I don't know, but he kept screaming at me, and the thing is, when you have small kids, Andre, is that one gets accustomed to them screaming in your face because they're upset about something, and you just listen, right? What are you mad about? Is it this, that, And so he kept yelling at me, and I would really calmly kind of respond, and then he'd start yelling at me again. So, okay, what's wrong? About the fourth time he did that, the judge took his gavel, slammed it on the bench, pointed it at him, and was like, let her finish, and yelled at him and stuff. And I was like, okay, wow. So we get through court. She did admit on the stand to defrauding the state of Indiana out of unemployment benefits, which was incredible. Did admit that she had a husband who lived in Egypt. Like I said, I think I told you my debit card had been empty, had been stolen, and
she was sending money to.
We don't know if it was. It sure looked pretty circumstantial, though. I mean,
really?
My husband said, hey, what happened to all our money? And I researched it, and it was a charge that was in some kind of foreign currency. So I Googled the currency, and it was Egyptian. And so it turns out her ex-husband lived in Egypt. So it was just really weird circumstantial evidence that was all piling up, right?
Mm-hmm. So you go to court. Does it get ruled in your favor?
Yes, we do win the case. We win the case.
A large amount of money, I take it.
It was a significant amount. It was a six-figure judgment, yes.
Do you get your money?
No, we've never seen a dime. I mean, on occasion, she'll pay a small portion to our attorney, but we haven't seen, I don't even think she's paid us $1,000.
So why do you, it seems like to me, if she has that type of alleged, I'm going to put out there, I don't know, it's like she would have filed an appeal or something to not pay you.
Yeah, she did file an appeal, actually.
Or to delay the process of paying you.
She does have a judgment against her. She did file an appeal. And here's where things get a little bit crazy. So I had used my husband's annual bonus from work to pay our existing legal bills because I just wanted to put it all behind us. It had taken on a life of its own. I was over it. Let's put it behind us, move on. Overnight, she appealed, and our attorneys answered the appeal. Well, appellate work is extremely expensive. And so we had this huge legal bill that just came out of thin air, right? And I remember my husband looked at me, and he just had this look of defeat and sadness on his face. And I said to him, I don't even know where these words came from. I said, don't ever worry about that bill again. I'm going to pay it. And I didn't know how, because remember, I've got 3 kids in elementary school and a toddler at home.
Right.
So that was when it was then that I decided I was going to get my real estate license.
Before we talk about the real estate license and how that was a significant change, the case itself, when she decided not to pay, I'm trying to take the viewers to understand the money impact, because you won the case and you're thinking you're going to get this money. You had no idea she was going to come back later and try to delay by filing an appeal. So you take the money that your husband got and you just said, I'm going to pay off the attorney to get the bills out the way. Now there's some really financial crippling going on in your life to where now you're becoming a real estate agent, right?
Correct, yeah.
So now what happens when you become a real estate agent?
So real estate, I'd always wanted to be an agent, but it's kind of an intimidating field to get into. It's hard to get started. And so it was really my desire to pay that bill that kept me in the game. I wasn't going to stop because every time I thought about quitting, it was intimidating. People know so much. There's this, there's that. I don't know. I was like, I can't quit. I have to pay this bill. And that is what's going to happen.
What was it like when you went into the real estate game? Because you said it was intimidating.
Well, Indianapolis is one of the most desirable real estate markets in the United States, right? Everybody wants to be an agent because it looks like it's easy. Remember, when you get into it, I mean, I know that the latest MIBOR stats, we had 9,000 agents, right? 9,000 agents competing for X number of listings and buyers, right? So, and remember, I'm not from here, and I've got, 3 kids, and I've got this baby that I take in with me to my brokerage, which was wonderful. They were very kind to me, by the way. And they were very encouraging, and I just kept doing open house after open house after open house, because I couldn't tell my husband that I wasn't going to pay that bill. I had to, because I didn't want him to
Did
be
he
upset.
stressed that you pay it?
Yeah, he was mad. He was upset. Yeah, it was his annual bonus, and I used it to pay a bill.
But you're married. You just won a lawsuit. Your house just got vandalized, pretty much. It just happens. I mean, was it really that difficult for him to say, okay, it happened, let's work together to get this done?
I think that it probably was. I had a lot of guilt about the situation because I had kind of picked her. He didn't really care for her. And I said, no, she'll be fine. So I kind of vouched for her.
I got you.
And then she let us down in this way. And now he's upset. And I just didn't want that. I didn't want that. I felt a lot of guilt about it.
So how did the real estate game change you to help you clean up all of this internal guilt?
Thank you for asking me that. So what happened was I started doing open houses, and I got some business, and I, was using that to pay down this bill. And every time I thought about quitting, I couldn't quit because I still have to pay this bill, right? And it kind of, when you deal with people, you deal with different situations. And sometimes I would get people, I remember I had a landlord that wanted to sell a house to his tenant. I walked in the house, and the tenants had wanted to buy it, but they didn't qualify because she had applied for a store credit card to buy some towels. You know how they always ask you, do you want this credit? And so it knocked her credit score down by literally 5 points. So she just didn't qualify, and she was disappointed, I could tell. She was gracious to me, let me in the house, but she wouldn't look at me. She would look at the floor, and and I was like, I don't know what that's about, but I don't know why you feel ashamed. I got no use for shame. So I called a mortgage lender that I know who had access to a grant program, got her qualified, got her this grant money. They now own that house. They now own that house for less than they would have paid for rent. And I never would have been there had it not been for all this stuff I was dealing with. So sometimes, I guess the takeaway is, if you help people get what they want, maybe you'll get what you want, which was to pay off a big bill that I didn't ask for. I didn't ask for this situation, yet here it is, and I have to deal with it.
Why did you feel the need to go above and beyond for this lady?
Thank you for asking me that. I don't, when you're not looking at me and you're looking at the floor, I can feel like the shame or something's going on. And for what? You got nothing to be ashamed of. Let's figure this problem out. You want this to be your house? Let's do it. I'll find someone who can help you. I'll find someone who can help. In fact, I'd had a mortgage lender meet with her, and he didn't really seem willing to work with her. So I kind of just let him go and brought in someone stronger.
Really?
Really.
What's this lady like now? Do you still have contact with this lady? I know you have to some degree.
Let's just say she was very grateful and thanked me very much, and that it means a lot to me.
You helped this lady with a new home, but out of your destruction of your home that shook up pretty much a large part of your life, you've also created something to help individuals so they don't have to go through this anymore. Because usually when things like this happens, we're afraid to go through the legal system because it is costly.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if they have your best interest at time. And sometimes you just, even though you win, you don't win because you don't know if the other person has the resources or the income. They're like, here's $1 million. Well, they don't even have $1 million to give you.
Yeah.
So what did you wind up getting out of that?
So I didn't wind up getting a whole lot of money, I can tell you that, but we did wind up with a legal holding. We made case law in the state of Indiana.
Explain to the viewers what case law is.
So case law is when laws are passed, usually the legislature does that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They, pass this bill and it goes through appropriations and this and that, and now you have a law. But that's not how every law is made. Sometimes laws are made based on what the court rules. Mm-hmm. And in this case, the defendant's defense was, what Miriam's alleging is ordinary wear and tear. Well, the court looked at all the facts in our 50-some exhibits and ruled ordinary wear and tear is not licensed to trash and loot a house. And so the case is Odegard v. Kishpa, and it's been cited in some 23, 24 legal briefs as case law.
So when you say cited, what does that mean to the viewers?
So when attorneys write cases to the court, when they write a brief, they will say, this is the issue and this is the rule, here's the analysis, here's the conclusion. And the rule, ordinary wear and tear is not licensed to trash and loot a house, which is supported by the Indiana Court of Appeals in Odegard v. Kishpa. That rule has been cited in at least 23 legal briefs presented to the court.
So I guess in short terms, what that means is when a lawyer goes to represent your case, they look at other cases that are similar to what you may be
Correct.
having with, and they put that into their briefing.
Correct.
Did I get it right?
You did.
I studied Matlock.
Yep, you did.
I like the fact that you came on the show to share this heartfelt and definitely beautiful story, going from one extreme to the other, but then playing it forward to help not only a lady get her house into the real estate game, which is definitely fearful for anybody even looking for a house or to rent, but then also taking your tragedy from having your house pretty much disruptive, not getting any money out of it, but at least bringing it to the attention that your case is out there to be cited and continue to be cited, and you making a difference with that. Leave the viewers with what keeps you going every day. What's that beast mindset for you daily now?
For one, the grace of God is a powerful thing. And for two, if you want to get what you want, you need to help other people get what they want. And that's what keeps me going. That's really what keeps me going. And to represent someone and represent their interests, protect their equity, to help them get a home, because buying a home is the first step towards wealth.
Mm-hmm.
That's tremendously rewarding for me, and that all came about because of all that stuff that I went through. And to date, I think it's been 142 families
Mm-hmm.
I've represented and some 27 million in Indiana real estate that I've sold.
How can the viewers reach out to you if they need your help, and whether somebody vandalizes their home and they need to know, hey, I heard a story on Andre's show about site number 55626 and I want to get a house. How can the viewers reach out to you?
So I have a website, miriamodegardhomes.com. And so,
I think you better spell that whole entire name.
I'm pretty used to that by now. It's Miriam, Miriam, Odegard, Odegard, miriamodegardhomes.com. I'd be delighted to help. Protecting your equity is what I do.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.